It's the GoGP.org A1GP of Gauteng at the Kyalami circuit, some 24 kilometres north of Johannesburg. The first visit to a very famous circuit, and we're getting very ready now for the feature race this afternoon. And as everybody is prepared for the start of this one, it gives us an opportunity to take a look at the lineup in a little bit more detail and confirm the fact that we have a brand new pole winner in A1GP, because A1 Team Monaco have snatched pole position, and that means that we've got another nation that has achieved that mark, the 13th nation in fact in the history of A1GP to stick the car on pole position. Alongside them on the front row, Malaysia and Faraz Fauzi driving very well here at the moment. We've got New Zealand and Australia, those two great rival nations, together on row number 2. On row 3, the top two in the series, Switzerland and Ireland, with the next best, Portugal, next on the grid as well. Netherlands and Great Britain on the 5th row of the grid. Row 6, France and China, and then behind them USA and Germany. We've got South Africa back on row 8 with Italy, followed by India and Indonesia. Lebanon and Mexico bring up the rear. So a number of cars trying to... A number of cars have got some work to do in this qualifying as a result of that strange situation yesterday, but we're into the build-up now for the race. So a beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and now we're going to get things fired up here thanks to the Honourable Premier of the Gauteng government, Mr. Paul Mashatile.
Gentlemen, for the pride of your nation, start your engine.
The Ferrari V8s are fired up from top end of the grid all the way down to the back. South Africa with plenty of work to do in this race, starting 15th. The United States car there, you can see we're rolling our way up the grid, moving up to the mid-grid now. France on the left as we look at it. Great Britain with lots to do. That car, John, has been repaired since this morning.
Yes, contact with Brazil coming into turn 1. Both drivers claiming they were the innocent party and innocent victim. We had a clean start for the sprint race into turn 1. Let's hope we can have a clean start for the feature race into turn 1 and through turn 2.
But it's Monaco that beat them all in qualifying. The smallest nation taking on the might of some of the biggest, but coming out on top in qualifying. Can they do the same in the race? There's no doubt that Clivio Piccioni has a very fast car. He's been quick all weekend. He's got the ability, he's got the experience, but there's a long, long way to go in this race. We're going to see the formation lap first of all. They'll get a practice start under their belts once again. Watch the guys on the right, well actually on the left as we look at it, on the right hand side of the circuit, because that is the dirtier side, but actually those guys up front seem to get away cleanly.
Yes, of course it's different when it all matters. Now when the lights go out, trouble at the back is which car? That's South Africa.
Netherlands going very slowly.
Yes, indeed. Now we saw Portugal have a similar problem getting off the line for the final parade lap as they were about to start the sprint race, and hopefully that other was South Africa or the Netherlands couldn't quite pick up that line.
Yeah, I think it was the Netherlands going very slowly. The points at the moment, 12 ahead, Team Ireland, from Switzerland, Portugal, who are tied on 58. Then the Netherlands are now moved up to 4th, ahead of France and New Zealand. And of course, New Zealand have a good opportunity to score well here today, as do Australia, starting 4th on the grid, and they're sitting 8th in the table. So do Malaysia. They desperately do need the points after a couple of performances that aren't up to their usual mark, I would say. Everybody bunching up a little bit quite early, I would say, on this formation lap.
Yeah, just looking through the field, at the very tail of the field actually is Mexico, who qualified 15th, but Salvador Duran, when he came in at the end of that qualifying session, failed to obey the signal to go in for the weighing and checking of the wings and so on and so forth, so he was penalised with a move to the tail of the field, so he will start at the very back in 20th place.
Lap 8 to 16 for the first pit stop, laps 23 to 31 for the second pit stop, and it is a 40 lap race, or 69 minutes plus a lap, whichever comes first. But in these dry conditions, I would expect it to go to distance in terms of laps, and that's 40 laps we're looking at. So Danny Watts for Team GBI, he's had a miserable weekend, to be honest. He went off in practice. That meant that he missed out on a fair bit of track time. They weren't able to get out at the beginning of practice anyway, and then of course he had the accident this morning, so he needs to put it all behind him and try and deliver a result this afternoon.
Yeah, but he did say before the start of the sprint race he was very confident. He lost a little bit of confidence in himself, he regained that. He's now got the car handling much more to his liking, and he was optimistic he could have made some progress, and he thought he was doing so when they had that contact with Brazil, but it's a long way back to come from even in 10th place, 5th row of the grid. You just got to be careful. If you see an opportunity, or you can even force an opportunity, that's fine, but don't do something that's going to take you out of the race, as we saw in the incident with Brazil.
And what about Team Ireland? The series leaders at the moment came off a brilliant victory in a second place in New Zealand last time. Could have been 2 wins if they hadn't had a little bit of poor luck in the pits, of course. 3 wins so far this season for Adam Carroll here. We're riding with him as he lines up, but he's starting from 6th, so he has a bit of work to do.
Again, as it was in the sprint race, take your chances if they're easily attainable, but don't force something which is not really obvious. And it's all about finishing for Ireland. They've got to try and get as many points as possible. If they're on the podium, great. If they're not, well, just maximise the best you can do. They've got 12-point advantage over Switzerland and Portugal, who are joint second behind you, and don't blow it by doing something irrational.
The last few cars moving into position then. See Mexico with a car certainly potentially quicker than those few ahead of them, but that's the story for a lot of people out there today. It's a bit of a mixed up grid, and that could lend to some interesting racing as we prepare for the big race of the day here at Kyle Army. The engine revs are beginning to build already. Lights out, away we go. Good start from the pole man, Monaco. Poor start from Malaysia and New Zealand, but a terrible start from Portugal.
They've got a problem. They had a problem in the sprint race start, and all of a sudden, look, Adam Carroll dives his way up to 5th place, but Portugal in all sorts of trouble. I don't think they got that car running.
No, and Adam Carroll tried to gain ground. He did gain a little bit. Australia lost out hugely. USA here trying to go around the outside of France. Marco Andretti trying to go around Prost, and he's done it.
Well, he's used to doing that on ovals. This is a flat corner. Somebody kicks up the dust on the exit of turn 4 now. A battle is on. We're ready to see it on power boost, and we couldn't judge that one. Into turn 5. Adam Carroll's in trouble.
The series leaders, Ireland in a spin. He was trying to get past Malaysia, and he's off. He's in the gravel trap.
And he's damaged the car. I said don't do anything irrational. You've got to score points. He is out of the race.
Yellow flag at that turn, but the point is, can he get going? It doesn't look good. France, Nicholas Prost now under pressure from Germany's Michael Ammermuller, and it's all happening in this first lap, and Adam's getting out. He cannot dick that car out of the gravel. He's climbing out of the car. The series leaders, Team Ireland, are out of the feature race.
Oh, I just wish I could give them the message I gave to you, the audience, but 10, 15, 20 seconds ago. Don't do anything irrational.
Monaco lead the race, Switzerland in second. This is the battle for third between the Black Beauty of New Zealand and Team Malaysia's Faris Fauzi, and Fauzi really trying to push here. He's got an inside line, but no, Bamber cuts him off.
No, there's no way you can pass coming up into these two very tight right and left, but Faris Fauzi clearly has got the pace. New Zealand having to be very defensive indeed as he came down into turn 15, the final turn. Brazil then battles with Australia.
5th place for Brazil, but Joel Martin was on the attack as they